Welcome, folks. Today is Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2025. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages. This is Hurricane Hub Live, and tonight on HHL, we're tracking an area of interest way out in the East Atlantic. Development odds, though, for that have gone up, and it will likely become now our next named storm, Gabrielle, within the next 7 days. Now, in the other basin, the Eastern Pacific, lighting up. 2 hurricanes out there right now, 1 major. And down the line, it could come awfully close to Hawaii in about 5 to 7 days worth of time. And could activity, that's all the activities going on in the Eastern Pacific, could it spill over into the Atlantic basin next? It's a good possibility. All right, tropical activity, climatologically, we're getting awfully close to the peak of the season. We're a week out. September the 10th is the climatological peak. That's when ocean temperatures are the warmest. Overall conditions are most favorable for not only tropical storms, but also hurricanes and major hurricanes during this time of the year. And pretty much all September is active, even into October, pretty active as well before things wind down into November. Remember, it goes all the way through November 30th, a 6-month season. Atlantic Basin right now, as you look at it on satellite, there's not a ton going on out there right now. The only area we're watching is this very disorganized cluster of thunderstorms with some broad rotation. But models do indicate that as it heads farther to the west-northwest, it moves into a more favorable environment. This is a seedling moving into a fertile environment. It's expected to develop, organize, tighten up, and become at least a tropical depression within the next 7 days. And if it becomes a tropical storm, it would get a name, and that would be Gabrielle. New update here. Increases numbers in both time frames. In 48 hours, we're at 40% odds, which is medium range. And then within 7 days, 80% chances of becoming Gabrielle. Closer inspection of this system, if you want to call it, right now is pretty much embedded with the intertropical convergence zone, which is basically this line here of thunderstorm activity that is lifting to the north as we get deeper into the season. And sometimes we get these areas of convection or organization trying to pinch off from it and detach and become tropical systems. So that's what we're watching there. If you look at it here on satellite imagery, when it does come up here in terms of water vapor, there is an abundance of dry, stable air off to the north and west that, if it does start to organize and develop, it could be ingested or entrained into the overall circulation, kind of stunting its growth. And that's what some of the models are really doing. Some really go, very bullish on it and develop it into a major hurricane. Others are really taking a long time to get its act together. So we'll have to see which model kind of has a better feel for it as we watch its evolution in the coming days. But looking at our tropical vocabulary pyramid here, right now we're pretty much right here, tropical disturbance. It has not yet been tagged in Invest. If you remember, it's Invest 90 to 99 is the numbers we recycle, and then L means it's in the Atlantic Basin. We're going to get that next, probably within the next 24 hours. And then sometimes before it's, actually a tropical cyclone, we get a potential tropical cyclone. PTC, this has been around since 2017. That's when they instituted it. Andrea this year, you remember this way out in the Atlantic, didn't affect anybody, but that was a PTC before it actually became a tropical storm. And we get depression, storm, and of course, hurricane at the top of that pyramid there. Let's look at some model comparisons here, because this is what I mean here when we go out in time. Models not really locking on any real development with this through the upcoming weekend until we get to early next week. We start to see some signal here from the GFS model, the American, which if you were watching yesterday, these models have been correcting farther to the south and to the west. So we start to get some little signal here from the European model, very, very weak, taking its sweet old time developing. GFS is much stronger, at least at this point in time, by Monday, 5 days out from now. Watching both models play out, notice the southern track of this. We have both possibly impacting the central northern Windward Islands, Leeward Islands, over towards the Lesser Antilles, U.S. British Virgin Islands, maybe towards Puerto Rico. Again, this is 9 days out. A lot can change and will change, but the trend so far has been for some development and tracking it farther to the south and west. GFS stronger. European at this point, much, much weaker. Let's just take it out to 10 days, and you can see the European just kind of drops off. Development falls apart as it gets into the Caribbean. And we do call the Caribbean the graveyard of the tropical Atlantic, because sometimes the wind shear is really detrimental to storm development, and especially with a lot going on in the Eastern Pacific, usually you see an increase in the Caribbean wind shear when there's activity out there. But the GFS saying, nope, no wind shear for this storm. We're going to take this one larger and maybe move it towards the Bahamas. But again, this is 10 days out. A lot can and will change. And the forward speed on this, even if I took it out past 10 days and went out through the entire duration of the GFS and the European model runs, you get out like to the 18th of the month, and it's still like in the Southwest Atlantic. So it is just extremely slow moving. So even at this point in time, it's like 10, 11, 12 days out from possibly being a threat to the United States. So a lot of time to watch it and see how things kind of play out here. What's going to be the main factor is if this subtropical ridge that'll be driving its movement to the west, if it's strong enough that it keeps it south and west longer. Like we saw with Aaron, there was a weakness that developed here near Bermuda, and that helped to bring it to the north and keep it safely offshore of the eastern U.S. and also well to the west of Bermuda, which both areas just saw some fringe effects. We'll see if we can get what will eventually become Gabrielle to do that as well. As I mentioned, that's the next name on our list. That'd be name number 7 so far this season. I like to go back and see at past instances of Gabrielle. Found this very interesting. Okay, back in 1989, there was an occurrence of Gabrielle. In fact, it was the strongest occurrence of that name. It peaked at a Category 4. Look at where it came from. This was an MDR, Main Development Region, Cabo Verde storm. Emerged off the coast of Africa, much like Gabrielle, which it will likely become, and is almost moving in that same general direction. And some models do also recurve it out to sea, like the 1989 occurrence of Gabrielle did. There's Bermuda right there. It passed well east of Bermuda and was its strongest. Remember when it was curving, like with Aaron, it got to its Category 5. This got to a Category 4 at that point and stayed safely out to sea. Now, there were other occurrences of Gabrielle. There were 2 landfalling instances of that, one in Florida and one in the Carolinas. These were both as tropical storms. But again, the strongest was the Category 4 back in 1989. Same general area, which will be very interesting to see if kind of history repeats itself there. Out in the eastern Pacific, of course, we've got 2 storms, Kiko and Lorena. Kiko is an interesting one we'll talk a little bit more about in a second, but let's touch on Lorena. That's closer to land and will likely be making landfall as a higher-end tropical storm here, building north, maxing out a little bit stronger than what it's at right now, and then turning to the north and northeast, impacting the Baja California, and eventually that residual tropical moisture building into the far southwestern United States, where they've been exceptionally dry. Of course, it's the desert southwest, and we'll see if we get any flooding as a result of that. Now for Kiko. Category 4 storm right now. It made a huge jump from Cat 2 to Cat 4 today. And as it moves along its path to the north and northwest, by Monday, it's still a Category 1 hurricane, and it is not all that far off from Hawaii. So we'll see if we can get this to go in that direction. And of course, it's going to be weakening as it does so. But even past the cone here, the 5-day cone from the National Hurricane Center, you can see the model spread from the various computer models here, the spaghetti plots, pretty much in line with taking it towards Hawaii by about a week out from now or so. So that'll be something to watch there. We may see some impacts in Hawaii from Kiko. Now, it did make that jump from a Cat 2 to Cat 4, but did it undergo rapid intensification? Remember, the definition is 35-mile-per-hour increase in maximum sustained winds in 24 hours. So here's a look at the 24 hours worth of advisories from the National Hurricane Center. Yesterday morning at 11 a.m., it was a Cat 2 100-mile-per-hour winds. And then today at 11 a.m., it was 130-mile-per-hour Cat 4. Only a 30-mile-per-hour jump. So even though it went from a high-end Cat 2 to a low-end Cat 4, it didn't quite achieve the definition of rapid intensification. However, it did have a significant drop, 25 millibar drop in terms of its pressure, and it will likely strengthen a little bit more. You saw it maxing out at 145 mile per hour wind. So as we go out a little farther, we will likely get that achievement of rapid intensification when you compare it to, say, the 5 a.m. Yesterday to the 5 p.m. tonight, when that does come out for, again, Hawaiian Standard Time out there. All right. So the names here, we've got Kiko, Cat 4, Lorena, Cat 1. We've had several hurricanes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hurricanes. And of those, 3 have been majors already. So it's been a very active season in the Eastern Pacific, and it looks to maintain pretty good activity over the next week or so. So coming up after a quick break, folks, we're looking back at Hurricane Dennis. which did have impacts along the east coast of the U.S. back in 1999. We've got some footage from that we're going to share with you. And later on, of course, we got our tropical trivia. Welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. If you were living near Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, or Eastern Virginia during the year 1999, you may remember Hurricane Dennis. The storm affected the mid-Atlantic from August 30th through September the 5th. Hurricane Dennis brought strong winds, heavy surf, and significant beach erosion to areas like Virginia Beach. We dug into our archives recently. Let's take a look back at our coverage from back then.
It's not unusual to take a stroll on the beach, take on the waves, or even take a dip in the pool on a summer vacation. But during a hurricane, these tourists refuse to let Dennis the Menace spoil their spirit.
We're trying to do the best we can during this weather, and they've been beating the boredom by going out and saying they survived Hurricane Dennis.
Emergency officials say the worst of the weather is over, although it may take a while to repair the damage, restore all the electricity, and return everything back to normal. Some longtime locals say the weather is more like a nor'easter than a hurricane, but newer transplants aren't so sure.
This one, you're still hesitant about what's going to happen. You're not sure if it's going to come back or not, or we're just hoping it blows out of here soon.
Everyone agrees they'll be glad when Dennis goes away.
A week of gloomy days gave way to this by early morning. Vacationers salvaged what they could of a shortened holiday weekend.
Head down to the beach, lay back, relax, and have a good time.
But they couldn't make it south of Oregon Inlet. That part of Highway 12 is only open to residents and property owners. They might have made it past an often wet Highway 12, but only a four-wheel drive would get them through what is now the old stretch of Highway 12 between Avon and Buxton. Road crews have carved out a new 3,000-foot stretch next to it. It should be finished in about 5 days.
This is the third time it's been moved. So we get used to that.
The damage from Dennis is still being calculated. Property damage can be restored. Lost revenue from the holiday weekend cannot. Doug Aronson, 13 News, Nags Head.
All right, stick around. Hurricane Hub Trivia up next. Welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. Yesterday's trivia question was, what was the name of the first hurricane discovered by satellite? Was it Betsy, Camille, Esther, or Flora? Correct answer is C. Esther, back in 1961. September the 10th, 1961, it was detected out by the Cabo Verde Islands, and it went on to become a Category 5 hurricane that actually made landfall in an unusual place in Cape Cod. All right, here's today's question. What U.S. county holds the record for the most hurricane landfalls? Is it Galveston County, Texas, Monroe County, Florida, Broward County, Florida, or Plaquemines Parish in Louisiana? Well, the answer tomorrow night on Hurricane Hub Live. Remember, we're here every night at 8 p.m. on 13 News Now Plus. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.